All right, Jenny, settle in. We're diving into something maybe a little counterintuitive today. Noise computing.
Okay, noise computing. My immediate, slightly panicked thought is just, like, busted hard drives and static screens? Is that the future?
Laughs. No, thankfully, although I totally get the mental image. For decades, the goal in computing has been the opposite, right? Make everything super clean, super deterministic. A bit is a 0, or it's a 1. Solid. Reliable.
Like a light switch. On or off. No ambiguity.
Exactly. But, and here's the twist, what if, for certain kinds of problems, that strict determinism is actually a limitation? What if the inherent fluctuation, the probability, the actual noise between 0 and 1, what if that's the key?
Huh. So you're saying we intentionally build uncertainty in?
Pretty much. And the big banner under noise computing right now is something called probabilistic computing, or P computing. It's not your standard classical computer where the bits are always fixed. And it's not quantum computing, which uses quantum weirdness, superposition, entanglement, all that stuff that needs, crazy cold environments and intense isolation.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Because quantum sounds pretty, fuzzy? Probabilistic? Things being in multiple states until you measure?
It's a natural comparison people make. Quantum computing relies on quantum mechanics. And yeah, that's inherently probabilistic. But quantum is trying to harness those effects for massive speedups on carefully structured problems. Often problems classical can't even touch. And the qubits are fragile, prone to error from any noise at all.
Right, the whole super cold fridge thing.
Exactly. P computing is different. It uses different building blocks called p-bits.
P for probabilistic, I'm guessing?
You got it. A p-bit isn't locked at 0 or 1. It wiggles. It fluctuates between 0 and 1 over time. You can nudge its bias, make it spend times time as a 1 or more times time as a 0, but it's always flipping. Think of it less like a switch and more like a coin that's constantly being flipped. And you can bias the coin.
Okay, like a coin flipper you can set to land on heads 70% of the time?
Precisely. And here's a really interesting part. You can build these p-bits using existing, or very nearly existing, semiconductor technology. Stuff like magnetic tunnel junctions, MTJs.
Existing tech? That sounds way more practical to build than a quantum computer.
That's a huge piece of the puzzle, the appeal. The idea is you could potentially integrate these sorts of circuits onto standard chips, leveraging natural physics, things like thermal fluctuations or other inherent randomness, to drive the p-bits.
So the noise isn't just tolerated, it's part of the engine?
Yes. It's engineered randomness. And for certain types of problems, particularly really complex optimization challenges that bring classical computers to their knees. Problems where you have a massive, messy landscape of possible answers, and you're trying to find the times best times 1. This probabilistic exploration can be way more efficient.
Okay. Optimization, like finding the best delivery routes for, a huge network, or figuring out how complex molecules fold?
Those are perfect examples. Think drug discovery, designing new materials, financial modeling, logistical planning, certain machine learning tasks. Problems where there isn't a single, straightforward, deterministic path. You're searching this vast space of possibilities.
And a classical computer, even a super powerful one, is kind of trying to walk through that space step by step, or use clever but still rigid maps.
Spot on. And for the really difficult problems, that takes enormous time and energy. P-computing, by embracing the probability, can potentially navigate that landscape more naturally. Maybe finding a good enough or near optimal solution much faster and using significantly less power.
Okay, reduced energy. That feels like a big selling point, doesn't it?
It could be. The hope is that because the fundamental operations are simpler and leverage natural physics, the inherent probability, you might see notable energy savings compared to powering massive classical systems that are trying to brute force these complex tasks.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with the world's computing demands just climbing.
Exactly. It's not aiming to make your spreadsheet software run faster. It's aimed squarely at these specific, computationally intense problems, where current methods hit a wall due to sheer complexity and energy cost.
So, it almost sounds like it could be a bridge tech, like something that's more accessible than quantum right now but can still do some of these really hard problems?
That's one way to look at it. It could fill a specific niche, offering probabilistic problem solving that's potentially much more scalable and easier to build than current quantum systems. And maybe they could even work together down the line.
Oh? Like using p-computing for part of a problem, and then a quantum computer finishes it?
Possibly. Or maybe using probabilistic methods to help initialize or control those finicky quantum systems. The research is early, but people are exploring the potential synergy.
Okay, all sounds promising. But what are the catches? It can't just be easy, right?
Oh, absolutely not easy. There are major hurdles. Integrating this probabilistic hardware into existing computer architectures is complex. Developing the software, the algorithms and tools to run on these systems effectively requires a whole new way of thinking about programming. We're used to telling computers times what to do, step by step.
Right, like giving precise instructions.
Yeah, and now we need to design algorithms that work with inherent randomness, that can kind of surf the probabilities to find a solution. It's a different paradigm.
HMMPH. Okay, so software is a big one. What else?
Well, the accuracy versus speed trade-off we touched on for problems that must have a perfectly, provably deterministic answer, like safety-critical systems in planes or medical devices, or making sure your bank balance is exactly right. Classical computing is and will remain the tool. P-computing is great at finding a high-probability good answer, but sometimes good isn't good enough.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't want your pacemaker running on probably correct calculations.
Chuckles. Probably not. And that brings up potential reliability concerns if this tech starts leaking into domains where deterministic results are essential. You need clear boundaries for its applications. Also, there's the challenge of verification. How do you know times the answer a probabilistic computer gives you is good enough? How do you debug a system that's intentionally random?
Oh, yikes. Debugging sounds like a nightmare. Why did it do that? Physics?
Laughs. Something like that. It requires new ways to validate results. And, there's even talk about potential security implications.
Security? How?
Well, if you're relying on the specifics of the randomness generated by the hardware, could someone potentially exploit subtle biases or statistical weaknesses in the physical p-bits? It's something researchers are considering.
Right, because it's using real-world, slightly imperfect physics.
Precisely. It's moving away from the perfect, idealized bits of classical computing. And then there's the expert viewpoint debate.
Okay, what do the experts disagree on?
Some argue that while p-computing is interesting and uses more accessible tech, quantum computing, if they can ever sort out the error correction and scaling issues, offers truly exponential speedups for certain problems that p-computing might not match. They see p-computing as a useful step, but maybe not the ultimate destination for the hardest problems.
So, the long game versus the medium game?
Kind of. Others counter that p-computing's accessibility and potential energy efficiency make it relevant times for a wide range of crucial optimization problems. They argue it will impact daily life sooner than quantum computing, even if quantum promises higher asymptotic performance on a tighter set of problems potentially years from now. It's a different focus, using probability for search and approximation rather than leveraging quantum effects for parallel computation.
Okay, that makes sense. One is trying to build this super delicate, lightning-fast machine for specific tasks, and the other is saying, hey, what if we just use the messy world around us to help us search for answers?
That's a good way to put it. It's leveraging natural processes that classical computing tries to eliminate, and leveraging them for specific computational goals. Research has been bubbling away on this for a little while, but it's definitely getting more serious attention and investment recently.
It feels very clever in a way. Instead of trying to fight against the noise and the messiness that physics gives us, we're inviting it in and saying, okay, how can you help us?
Exactly. Using fluctuation as a computational tool. It's a fundamental rethinking of the bit, really, and it opens up applications in areas like complex simulations, perhaps even new kinds of machine learning, that embrace uncertainty inherently.
So to recap, not broken computers, but computers that use the times of brokenness, of fluctuation, to solve tough problems faster and maybe with less energy, especially optimization tasks. Uses more standard tech than quantum, but isn't useful for every task, needs new software, and isn't perfect.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jenny. It's carving out a unique space in the computing landscape.
Well, cheers to noise then. Just keep it out of my podcast audio file.
Laughs. Deal. Probabilistic computing. Making controlled noise work for us. Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for wading into the static with me, Mark.
Anytime, Jenny.